Everybody ready? The meeting will come to order. Council agenda, Township of Parsippany, Troy Hills, regular Township Council meeting of August 16, 2016.
Posting of notice. An adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Law by filing the notice in the office of the Township Clerk and by posting the meeting notice on the bulletin board of the Municipal Building on December 17, 2015, where it has remained posted since that date. A legal notice appeared in the Daily Record on December 22, 2015, and the North Star Ledger on December 24, 2015, and was forwarded by fax to our local newspapers and local radio stations on December 17, 2015. Council meetings are videotaped and aired on Cablevision, Public Access Channel 21 at 11 o'clock a.m. on Sundays, and are also available for viewing at www.parsippany.net.
Can everyone stand for our flag salute?
Mr. Creepy. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Khalid, roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Here.
Mr. DePiero?
Here.
Ms. Grignani?
Present.
Mr. Peluso?
Present.
Mr. Valori?
Here.
Also in attendance are Mayor James Barbario, the Township Council Justin Marquetta, and the Township Clerk Khaled Madden. Mr. President, we have a quorum. You may begin.
Thank you. Our upcoming meetings will be on September 6th, and that will be at 7:30. That will be our agenda meeting. And the following one will be on September 20th at 7:30 p.m. That will be our regular meeting. Approval of the minutes, council regular minutes, July 19, 2016.
Could I have a motion for that?
Motion
to approve.
made. Grignani.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Grignani, second by Mr. Krufi. Roll call.
Ms. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Peluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Great. We're going to have presentations and reports next. Mayor, who would you like to come up to do the presentation?
Chief. We'll go this way, Chief. You can come up to it.
Okay.
We'll block the cake. Actually, all police officers, if they come up. Come on.
Come on, gotta go down this way.
Well, you know, over the past many years, we depend on our police forces. All right? Come on, guys. And all that they do for our community, but especially here. Can I go, Mayor?
We got bright shirts on, so we sit on the end.
All the police officers do in our community, but especially here in Parsippany. For the past 7 years, I'm proud to say that I've been blessed with a wonderful police force, and the men and the women here in Parsippany. You know, everything that's happening in this world, not just this world, but this country, targeted police officers. I thought it was our duty to recognize our police officers here in Parsippany. We've done a lot of, as you know, you hear every day, you know what's going on in Wisconsin. Well, we appreciate what we have here. And then every summer concert that I have been at, and going around town, I have a lot of residents coming up to me, wanting to thank all the men and women here in Parsippany. Some woman, she should be here later on today. She actually wants to do something, so we're working out and coordinating something to do with the town. So I'm going to read the proclamation to you two. The Township of Parsippany, Troy Hills Whereas in Parsippany, as in other communities, police officers play an important role in safeguarding the public by protecting the lives and property of our citizens. And whereas Parsippany police officers put their lives on the line to defend us against violent crime and work to keep our neighborhoods safe through maintaining law and order. And whereas it is fitting and proper that we express our gratitude for the dedicated service and courageous deeds of our police officers and for the contribution they have made to the security and well-being of our community. And whereas it is important for all citizens to recognize the risk faced by police officers on a daily basis and to respect them as a role model of courage and integrity for our youth. Now therefore, I, James R. Barberio, the mayor of the township of Parsippany Troy Hills, who hereby proclaim the month of August 2016 as Police Appreciation Month, and encourage all families to publicly salute the service of law enforcement officers in our community and across the nation. I furthermore encourage members of the Parsippany community to provide the Parsippany Police Department with needed encouragement and support to confront the uncertain situation they face daily. Well, this is the first day, we're going way back. We're doing retroactive, so there's no retroactive pay. First day of March 2016.
No, I just wanted to mention that I had the opportunity to work with this great police department for about 20 years, and I'm honored to be here with the council members along with the mayor, and we're so pleased that the police department 2 years ago
Justin has his own name plate.
about 106. So this administration and council is very proactive in providing law enforcement community, and we all need to see it. Thank you.
Come on down.
It's very hot.
We can stand there for the picture.
Where are we gonna get?
There ain't no room down there.
Not much. Hey, hi. Good. How are you?
And we have cake after this, ladies and gentlemen, so.
Going on back.
Pretty good way.
Oh, we'll mention it. And just take one moment. We have our newly elected to be Sheriff James Gannon in the back there. I'd like to bring him forward. Gene, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you could say a few words to
How are you? Well, it's certainly great to be in Parsippany, and seeing the Parsippany Police up here. It's a tremendous organization. You have some policemen, obviously, on the council, too, and a tremendous organization. I was a Hooten cop, so I was right nearby. And a really sophisticated police department that have the community number one in their mind. So I think that's a great starting point, and makes me very proud of where they are today under the chief's leadership and everything. Got good command staff and great people that really care about this community. So thanks for all the work that you do, guys.
And thank you for being here. Please come up here and put your photos up.
Let's go up with you.
You have to come over by the chief area.
Okay. How you doing there? Congratulations. I don't want to put my
I don't want the
Good. Cut that cake.
All right, first of all, I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for their continued support. As Council President Valori mentioned just a couple of years ago, our department went down to 86 officers. Frankly, that was dangerous for the officers and for the community. And it's thanks to the support of these people that we've been able to come back up to a reasonable number. I'd also
be remiss if I didn't thank the community as a whole. I have been, as you know, this last year has been very difficult for law enforcement in the United States in general, in some cases fatally so. And here in Parsippany, we have had a tremendous outpouring of support from the community. Just people that don't want to be in the limelight, don't want to be identified, or given credit for what they're doing. They're stepping forward constantly.
Hey, Chief,
Showing us support.
just for information, if you want to be on TV, you better use the microphone.
Oh, yeah, grab that mic right there, Chief.
Well, I was hoping I could get away without that, but thank you for pointing that out. As I was saying, the community has really stepped forward, and it is greatly appreciated by our officers. And it is a dangerous job. Simply because we have this support from the community doesn't mean that our men and women out there on patrol have nothing to worry about. Any time they can run into some lunatic, and frankly, the misinformation that is being spewed through social media and in some cases the news media to exaggerate strife and discord in this country has a tendency to bring out the crazies. And that's something that I worry about, because every one of these men and women in blue are near and dear to me. And to illustrate how dangerous it can be, this cross was given to me by the mother of a police officer in Beaumont, Texas, that I rode for in the Unity Tour a few years ago. It was a nice, quiet night, nothing going on, and then the next thing you know, he was murdered. So this can happen anywhere, anytime, and that's why your support, the community support in general, is so important to us. And I can't stress enough my gratitude for the support of the people of Parsippany. This is a wonderful town, and we're going to keep it that way. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Chief. Good job. That'll be great, yeah. We'll take the break now.
Yeah. If I drop this, Chief, you're not going to like me too much.
What we'll do is we'll take about a 10-minute break so we can enjoy some of the cake. You in the audience there, please take the opportunity to have some cake. It's all fat-free. It's good for you. And we have coffee there also. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. Thank you.
I know what you're saying.
All right, we're going to call the meeting to order so we could start our presentations. Hopefully everybody had cake and some something to drink over there. And I believe that you'll be doing the presentation next. Okay. If you want to come up and introduce yourself to everyone. Yes, you may.
I sound like a frog. Sorry.
You can take that out of there.
Yeah, you can take that over.
Yeah. This is fine. Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and start?
Yes.
Okay.
You have the floor.
Shall I introduce myself?
Yeah, so get credit for what you're doing.
Okay, that's great. I don't know if we want to turn down the lights once I get started, but I mean, you don't have to look at me the whole time. So I'm Vonda Givens. I'm the executive director of the Stickley Museum at Craftsman Farms. I'm already getting applause. That's excellent. Thank you. Haven't done anything yet. And I want to thank you all for inviting me to make this presentation tonight. And I want to first say that I'm fighting a cold. It's nothing like having a cold in August. And so I sound like a frog, so I apologize for that. And I may have to have some hot tea as I do this presentation. I want to acknowledge that we have a crowd from Craftsman Farms here tonight. If you want to acknowledge yourselves, we have some board members, our board president, Barbara Weiskettel. We have volunteers, a variety of people who are involved in Craftsman Farms, and we want to thank them for coming tonight. So this is our annual presentation to the council. Our operating agreement with the township requires this presentation, but it's something that I always look forward to doing because we want to share with our community what we're doing at Craftsman Farms. And this is, really an accounting of what we've been doing since the last year. So we'll try to get through it as quickly as I can, but tonight I am also asking for funds, and so that I want to make sure that I spend time on. So spoiler alert, I'm going to ask for funding as well. So this will take a little while, but I'll spend most of my time talking about the 3 topics here listed on the PowerPoint, yesterday, today, and mostly talking about tomorrow, because really that's the future, and that's where I want to spend most of my time discussing where we're headed as an organization. Okay, so to get started, where I usually start in any presentation is talking about Gustav Stickley. Stickley, of course, came to Craftsman Farms in 1911 and built the farm from 650 acres that he purchased in Parsippany. He had a grand vision for the property, a family home, a working farm, a school, and a whole community of like-minded people. And he wasn't able to realize his entire vision for the property, but he lived on the property and had a working farm and had all the plans for the school. He just never got it off the ground. Sadly, World War I ended up having a serious effects on his business. But before World War I started in 1913, his businesses were going strong. This is a list of all of the parts of his business enterprise, from a magazine to a home building company, and he had a department store off of East 38th Street and Fifth Avenue in New York City. So 1913, right before World War I started, was his biggest year, but it was also sort of beginning of the end. In 1915, he declared bankruptcy, and he sold Craftsman Farms in 1917 to keep it out of bankruptcy. So the property was purchased by a family named Farney, who lived on the property for the next 70-odd years. And in the meantime, Stickley himself, who had been famous in his lifetime, essentially disappeared from popular memory and died in 1942. He had intended to retire at Craftsman Farms and wasn't able to do that, but he lived a long life after leaving Craftsman Farms. He unfortunately didn't live long enough to see the interest that was ignited in the 1970s and 80s in Stickley. And that interest propelled us to really where we are today with saving Craftsman Farms, the home of his dreams that he built in 1911. So this is just a timeline of saving Craftsman Farms. A couple of years ago, we celebrated our 25th anniversary of saving Craftsman Farms and also of establishing the foundation that oversees its operations today. And in 1988, there was a referendum asking the town of Parsippany if they'd be willing to set aside the funds to purchase Craftsman Farms. And that was overwhelmingly approved, and then the next year the town council approved acquisition of the property, and the Craftsman Farms Foundation, which is now the Stickley Museum at Craftsman Farms, was formed to restore, preserve, and interpret the site. So it opened to the public the next year, and it became a National Historic Landmark that year as well. In 2007, I just marked another year that was important, because that's the year we signed a 25-year operating agreement with the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills. And that's significant because when you're seeking preservation funding, anyone who's going to fund preservation wants to know that the property is protected for years to come. So that was really important. And it was also the year that we began our historic site master plan, which is sort of the beginning of doing preservation work. So somebody recently asked me this question. I thought I would include my answer in here. Somebody asked me, what do you do? And what we do at the Stickley Museum at Craftsman Farms is really laid out in our operating agreement with the township. It lays out that we are responsible for preservation of Craftsman Farms, for the operations, making sure that it's open to the public, and interpretation, making sure that there are educational opportunities at Craftsman Farms. And I just want to stop on this for just a minute and talk a little bit about these responsibilities that we have. So the operations and interpretation are more or less, they're hand in hand. They come out of the same budget in my department. And preservation is a different activity from those things. But they need to be mutually beneficial. If we're doing our job right, if I'm doing my job right, preservation and operations go hand in hand. For instance, if we are pursuing a preservation project, let's say there's a building that's currently not open to the public. If we can open it to the public and preserve it and use it for programs, bringing Girl Scouts onto the property, use it for tours, use it for our staff to have offices there, that's benefiting our operations and helps to stabilize and make us stronger. Operations also can benefit preservation. So if we know, for instance, who's coming to Craftsman Farms as visitors and what they want from us, what kinds of experiences they're interested in having, that drives us towards preservation, helps us know what building do we work on? There are 9 buildings on the property, and they're more than 100 years old. I can promise you there's lots of things that need to be done on the property, but if you're properly strategizing your operations, then you have a really good sense of how to prioritize preservation. So it's really about being strategic in both, and if both are working properly, then that's when you're really a community resource, and that's what we really want to be. The township purchased this property more than 25 years ago, and we want to make sure that we're a resource for the people of Parsippany. So I laid out below that a little bit of what we try to do to contribute to the community. Our economic impact is something that we're just beginning to explore as an organization, but we've been gathering audience data for the first time this year, and this is a new question that we've added to what we ask visitors. We have 5 questions we ask them in our survey, and one is a question about, do they intend to spend money in the area aside from at Craftsman Farms? And overwhelmingly, 70% of people say yes, they intend to do that. And mostly it's people planning to dine in the area, but there's also retail shopping and purchasing gas and staying in hotels and things like that. So that's something that the stronger we are, the more economic impact we can have. We also realize that we have a really big facility that has the potential to be of use more to the community than it is right now. We have 9 buildings, and we know that there's a lack of meeting space around Parsippany, and people have often said to me that on our side of town there's not a lot of places to meet. Well, that's something that we think that we can fill that gap. We provide quality of life. We're a park, and if nothing else, that's something that is contributing to the community. And we can also be a resource for sharing local history and heritage. You know, a lot of people talk today about the fact that local history isn't covered that much in schools anymore. The curriculum has changed. It's geared more towards national history. And teachers in the 4th grade can decide to cover local history, but it's not done as much anymore. And this is something that sites like ours can help to fill some of those gaps and help make sure that children who are in the community know a little bit about the heritage and history of their community. And finally, we really try to be a source of pride, and Stickley is known worldwide, and we want to be a place that can provide international exposure to Parsippany. I'm always fascinated that everywhere I go, when people ask me what I do, Stickley has fans everywhere. So it's something that we can be proud to go out and to spread the message about Stickley and bring people into Parsippany. So who we are today, our mission, I'm not going to read the whole mission, but it's on our website if you'd like to read it. And we spent the better part of 2014 doing strategic planning, and our 4 strategic plan goals are listed here. They are to expand our audience, to develop a plan for campus expansion to meet the needs of the audience. So if we're going to have a bigger audience, we need places to put people. And number 3 sounds kind of dry, but it is really important to be able to pursue accreditation. It puts us in line for bigger and more important grants. The first step in doing that is completing something called the AASLH, the American Association of State and Local Histories Standards and Excellence Program. This is a long-term project for us, but it really ensures that we are pursuing best practices as an organization, and it's really been an important thing for us to be doing over the last couple of years. And finally, ensuring financial health, which is the goal of most not-for-profits. It's something that we are always striving to do. So a little bit more about who we are today. We're open year-round, Thursday to Sunday, and that means that in a blizzard, we have to usually open up the doors. You'll be surprised that people come for tours, even during a blizzard, and we have to get the doors open in the winter. Being open year-round means that we give more than 800 tours per year. And on top of that, we do programs, all kinds of things from Girl Scout workshops, family programs, trips, lectures. Last year we did 58. This year we've done 31 so far. And we recently, a couple of years ago, became a polling location in Parsippany, Troy Hills. We're having our first big election there in November, so we'll be getting ready for that soon. We serve an average of 11,000 people per year, and I just wanted to mention that in 2016, we're very pleased to say we set attendance records in March, April, June, and July. We also have a large membership, so you can be a member at Craftsman Farms, and with that membership, you have benefits, like you can get a discount in our shop, or you can come on a tour for free. So I thought it might interest you to know that 58% of our members are from New Jersey, but 42% are from 30 other states. So we do have a nationwide impact. Takes a lot of people to keep this place going. We have 55 core volunteers and 78. That's when we have a big event, we have to bring in more people. I'm going to throw this in really quickly, but I thought you might be interested to see. This is a regional map. 56% of our visitors come from within a 20-mile radius. And it also might interest you to see that 22% of our visitors come from outside of New Jersey, and that they represent about 20 different states. This was last year. So a lot of times people ask me about how we are funded. And breaking it down between our operations and preservations, operations are self-funded. Our current budget is $500,000, which means that we have to raise $500,000 annually to be able to cover our budget. We are a small organization. This is a tall order for us to fill every year, and we don't take for granted every year that we're going to be able to do it. But we do pursue it through a variety of ways of doing that. So membership, I've mentioned, is one way to do it. We pursue restricted and unrestricted grants. For the most part, grants are always restricted. It's very hard to find grants that you can free to spend them however you want. Our largest grant is from the New Jersey Historical Commission. It requires quite a bit of work to be able to pursue it, and reporting. We're grateful for it. And it can only be used for staff salaries, for instance. Fundraising events and campaigns. Our annual gala is coming up on October 15th, and we need to raise a fourth of our income in that night. So it's a big night for us, but there are other campaigns and events that we do throughout the year. And we also, of course, earn income. So when you come and pay admission, that's part of our earned income. Our shop is more and more, we're trying to make it destination shopping so that people, when they need to buy a gift in town, will think about coming to Craftsman Farms to do that. So those are a variety of ways we fund operations. Preservation is another important part of what we do. And as I often say to the staff, if the buildings don't exist, we don't exist. That's really at the core of importance of my responsibilities. And so preservation is a key part of the funding that we pursue, but it comes out of a different budget. It's capital money. So we can pursue open space grants from the town, from the county, and from the state. Those are those are the three options that we have. I'll say we have other options, but those are the best options at the point to get preservation money. It is difficult. Preservation requires following the standards set by the Secretary of the Interior, and it's a complicated process. So we currently have 2 open space grants from the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, and those were one from Resolution 113 was from 2013 for $520,000, and that was for 5 different projects. The bulk of that funding went for the White Cottage and Administrative Building, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Resolution 33 was from the 2014 presentation that I made, which was about grant funding that had been from previous years. We estimated the cost for projects, and the projects came in under budget or changed for whatever reason, and there was money remaining in those grants. So we pooled it together and came back to the council and asked if we could use that money for new projects. So we did a lot of preservation work on the roof and work on our North Cottage windows. We also have gone to Morris County Historic Preservation Trust for help with funding on our windows. And we're waiting to hear from the New Jersey Historic Trust about a grant for White Cottage stabilization. So I want to come back to this grant from 2013, and it was significant for us. The first 2 projects are complete. The exterior lighting was essentially put on the back burner as we were working on other projects, and now we're getting going with that. But the 2 big projects there were for the White Cottage and the administration building. And the reason those were the big projects is because we were looking to more fully utilize the administration building and to be able to open up the White Cottage for use. Our goal was to be able to spread around $300,000 across these 2 buildings to use it as seed money to be able to start working on those buildings. So we began working on the White Cottage first. The idea was that we would move the staff into the White Cottage. Right now there's nowhere else to put desks in their current building where the staff is located, and we needed to move so we could expand our staff. So we were looking at the White Cottage to do this. We started out with a feasibility study, and this was taking place about the time I became the director. And fortunately, we were able to do it at no cost. We didn't have to spend any of the grant money doing it. It was done by a board member who's an architect. But one of the things we had to grapple with right away was the fact that the White Cottage didn't fulfill the needs that we had hoped it would. One of the biggest issues was that it was not giving us any additional space beyond what we currently have for the staff. So we couldn't grow any by using it. It had additional problems with parking and ADA accessibility, but that was really the big issue. We grappled with that a long time as an organization to try to figure out, well, what do we do now with this? And of course, this is a building that needs to be have work done on it. It is an original building on the property, and it's a building that we're committed to working on. There's plenty of work to be done on it, and we have funds set aside from that grant to pursue work on the White Cottage. So to date, we've done environmental study, and we've removed asbestos, and the next step is to fix the roof, essentially. So that project is in process. But it really takes us back to how we came in 2013 and said, we have some major goals that we want to fulfill. And we asked ourselves, well, if the White Cottage is not the answer, then how do we do this? Here's what we said we needed was to expand our exhibition space. We need to expand our facilities available to the public to use. And we want to expand our staff facilities. So if the White Cottage if we weren't able to expand in that direction, then we looked at the other building that was a part of this grant, and that's the administration building. So we were looking in this grant to take the first floor and turn it into exhibition space. The first floor is where the staff is. After coming to terms with the White Cottage not being the solution to our staff issue, we started looking at this building and wondering if we did more, and not just the first floor, but the bottom floor, if we could use the whole building and we could get closer to our goals. So the administration building is a building that can be used for rehabilitation, which means that, well, actually it burned in the 1950s. And because of that, it doesn't have as strict requirements as some of the other buildings on the property. The bottom floor of that building, however, is original Stickley, and it was actually a garage, which makes it an interesting multi-use space. So we started looking at the top floor for ways to maximize the space for our staff. Is there different ways that we could move it around? But really the bottom floor was the floor we were looking at, because that garage is quite large. It's the full length of the building, and it seemed to offer the most opportunity. When we started down this path, it was pretty exciting because it looked like we might be able to fulfill all the goals that we had in this one building instead of over two. Then in our conversations that we began having with our architect, Eric Halterman, our architect is here tonight, we began to think about the original building when Stickley was on the property. We don't have any photos of that building, unfortunately, but this is from, I want to say around the 1950s after it was burned. This is actually the shell of the building. You can tell that was damaged. But you can also tell from these photographs that it was a much more prominent building on the property than it is today after it was rebuilt. And we started thinking about, well, if we could make it look a lot like it did in the Stickley era, it would give us a lot more space, a lot more prominence on the property. And in fact, as we had been doing our strategic planning and looking at our steps self-assessment, which is part of the accreditation process, we had additional needs that we've identified since 2013. We need to expand program facilities. Well, oftentimes exhibitions and programs can share space, and we think that that can be done in the garage floor of this building. We need to expand our storage space. We have a lot of paper and books that need storage. It's hard to store them in buildings that are made with stone in the foundation because they weren't ever really meant to be dry, and so there's often an issue with storage in those. So we need a place with climate control to store paper. And we need to ensure that this site remains the premier Stickley destination. This is something that's happened since 2013. For more than 25 years, we were the main site for Stickley and Stickley's legacy. His home in Syracuse that he sold to move to Craftsman Farms has sat empty for many years, and it's recently gotten funding for preservation. And as a preservationist, I'm thrilled about that. I think it's wonderful, and as a Stickley fan. But I want to make sure that the claim that we rightfully have to being the site for Stickley's dream home, that's the case that we're making, and that's our rightful place. This was the legacy that he wanted to leave behind. This was the place that he chose to build his home. So we want to make sure that we're the premier site for anyone who wants to know about Stickley and Stickley's legacy. And having a building that's the first building you see on the property that makes you know you really arrived is important. So when we talked with our architects about the building, this is what we ended up really moving towards. We spent the better part of a year looking at, could we do this in steps? Could we do the bottom floor? What was the best approach? And in the end, we could maximize the potential for the building by turning it back to look as much as we could like a Stickley era building. That gives us one thing that's like a preserved building. It also gives us a very nice space in the garage area. This is the part that I'm most excited about. I did programs for 7 years at Craftsman Farms, so I'm most excited about this. There's a flexible conference room space in the plans and a much larger multi-use space that can hold up to 120 adults standing. Currently, our biggest space holds about 40 people standing. So this is a much bigger, much more usable space. It will be much better for voting, and also a space that we will be able to invite our neighbors to come and use as well, and that's an important part of this. The second floor is staff space, and it has been staff space for a long time. But the exciting part of this is by looking back at the Stickley era, we were able to consider the attic space as well. And by just going up another floor, we will have more staff space, and we can always also squeeze in a little bit of storage space as well. So it has been a long-term project for us. We really took our time in thinking through this and thinking through the goals that we had as an organization. So now the big question is, what's the cost to do something like this? So it's $1.5 million is the anticipated cost to do the building. And this is a serious request that we're asking for, and we realize that. And on behalf of the board, I can confidently say we've spent a lot of time as an organization thinking through if this is the appropriate request to make. There are a lot of opportunities here for our organization, as I've mentioned. You know, I went through all the expanded space, all the things that we can accomplish with one building. But I do think it's important to acknowledge that there is an opportunity for Parsippany too, and allowing us to do the things that really, if preservation and operations are working together, that we can really be a partner to Parsippany, and that's what we want to do. It's a long-term, permanent investment, and it is one that will serve generations to come, which is something that is really important to us. So in closing this out, I wanted to just talk a little bit about how important it is for us to serve the next generation. It's something we're really tuned into, because when you have a historic site, when people got excited about saving it, you want to make sure that there's another generation coming along that will take it as seriously as you do. So we have always been educating children, and sometimes the hardest thing to do is just teach them how to say Gustav Stickley.
Who can tell me who built Craftsman Farms? Do you know his name?
Something Stickley.
That's a good guess. Yeah, something Stickley. Yeah. That guy right there. Good. So you've done this part before. Does anybody remember his first name? Do you know?
Gustav.
Oh, that's
Gustav Stickley. 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 Where are you? Whose house? Gustav
Okay, well, in closing, I want to invite you to Fall Family Day. That's where this was taken last year, and you can come and shout Gustav Stickley if you want to. I also want to invite you to Parsippany Neighbor Days. There's a couple more weeks on that. Every summer on Thursdays, it's $1 admission for our Parsippany neighbors, so it's a great time to take advantage of a $1 admission to get in to take a tour of Craftsman Farms. It's a good time to do it. You may have noticed on the highway we have a pottery exhibit up right now. It's really beautiful, so it's a good time to visit. And finally, I want to invite everybody to our fundraising gala. As I mentioned, it's an important gala to us. We have to raise a lot of funds to cover operational needs. And we're really pleased this year to be honoring the Kiwanis Club of Greater Parsippany and the Women's Club of Parsippany Troy Hills. These are clubs that have long served the community. Kiwanis is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, and they certainly have pioneered the path that we want to follow in serving the community. So we're excited to be doing that, and we want to invite you all to it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. Who's the architect? He says here, right? I just want to thank you for your time for doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to entertain any questions from the public at all, or anybody from the public have any questions, concerns? No? Okay. Council members?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Vonda, you talked about the white cottage. once some repairs are done, what do you envision for that cottage in the long run?
Sorry. We have been talking about what we want to do with the cottage. In the before, as we're working on a plan for it, we have quite a bit of work to do to stabilize the building. It was in worse condition than we anticipated as we started work on it. So we'll be doing that for the next, it'll take a little while to get it done, next year or so, to work on that. Ultimately, I anticipate it'll have some sort of residential use on the property. So we have opportunities to bring in graduate interns who would work for a summer in exchange for housing, and we don't have a way to do that currently. We've wanted to bring in artisans, to bring in scholars, so I think that we could use it for something like that. And we could also use it for small meetings. But without the handicap accessibility at the moment, that limits our use for the general public, so that's one of the complications. But I think that it will, I think that as we grow as an organization and stabilize the building, which is our first responsibility, we're going to have we'll have a clear plan for where we want to head with it.
Thank you.
Just one comment, if I may. Maybe two. First of all, I'd like to emphasize that Craftsman Farms is not just a historic site, it's a landmark. Like the Statue of Liberty is a landmark, this is a landmark. This is the great status that we have in Parsippany. And this was Gustav Stickley's home. There are a lot of Stickley museums nationwide, but this was his home. So we have a distinction that many other places do not have. The other, as a trustee of Craftsman Farms, I get to meet and work with all of the other trustees and committee members and all of the other organizations that I've been involved with. 10% of the people do 90% of the work. Well, that's not true here. 100% of the people do 100% of the work in this committee. It's a very, very impressive group of people dedicated to the Stickley movement and arts and crafts movement. And I'm really honored to be serving with them.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, concerns from the council?
Another question, Veronica. I just wanted to ask, with the income generation of the facility itself, it will be handicap accessible, and it's doing forecasting as far as income to show how that can be a viable space for use that can be rented, whether it's from people inside the community and people from outside the community?
Yes. So the first question about handicap accessibility, yes, it will be handicap accessible, which is one of the great parts about the bottom floor is that it is completely accessible, and that's the part that's open to the public. The question about forecasting, we know that we will be able to use it for our own events, which is exciting because we have, right now we do fundraisers and we have to pay another site to do that. So in terms of our own, generating our own funds, it will be important to do that. So instead of paying another facility, we can bring our own fundraisers here. In terms of rentals, we certainly anticipate renting it out, but and it is offering a meeting space to Parsippany. I think we would just want to offer meeting space to people in Parsippany. A more complicated rental like a reception or something, we would probably want to make rental income on it. But at this point, we simply need a bigger space to be able to do more with, and the flexibility of it is really just phenomenal. It was well beyond what I expected when we did the feasibility study.
How's your parking also?
The parking is small, and that's an area that we would like to grow into, and it's something that we'll need more. It's sufficient for what we're looking to do now, but in the future, if we grow, I think we'll need to have more parking addressed. Right now, there's no lines in the parking lot. That would probably be one thing that would help out right now, but that's something that down the line we'll have to address. Right now, when we have big events on the property, we have people who park cars, and that helps us get through it.
If parking becomes a problem, that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. Yeah, it's hard to complain about that. Although we usually need a police officer because when you're guiding parking, coming off of Manor Lane, people go really fast. So we've learned none of our volunteers can stand out there, but people slow down for the police officers, so that's good.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Mayor, would you like to move forward with the next committee?
Give that. Mayor Collins? It's the Community of Hope regarding the Tabor Road project.
Okay, great.
A little strange for me to be on this side of the dais, but tonight I appear before you as the Chief Financial Officer of Community Hope. Community Hope is a Parsippany-based nonprofit. We employ 300 individuals and employees, and we have an operating budget of just about $17 million. We are fundraising dependent, and last year raised $2 million in support of our operations. We took care of 1,200 individuals last year, both veterans and those suffering from mental illness. Parsippany's been a great partner. We came to you a couple years ago asking for support to develop a 5-bedroom unit on Tabor Road to serve 6 individuals. And I will tell you this, don't ever buy an old house. The original commitment was $600,000. Acquisition costs were $426,000, and improvement cost $314,000. So we exceeded our budget by just about $130,000. Community Hope committed $16,000 to the project. We put a roof on, we put it in gutters, but in the process we had things like separating fireplaces, BX cable that needed to be replaced, and probably the greatest challenge was really to provide for sprinklering throughout the building. So what we're asking this evening is that you commit another $120,000 to assist us in completing the project, which is just about 95% done. From the Developers Trust Fund, if we don't use the money, of course it'll remain in the fund, but we just need a little help to get us to where we need to be. We're 95% done, and this is the last big hurdle. And I don't have any slides, and I'm sorry about a limited presentation, but I'll entertain any questions from members of the council.
Yes, great. With this funding, when would the project actually be completed by?
We're anticipating that we will have the project ready for inspection and CO within the next 3 weeks.
All right, great. And what's the exact address over there on Tabor Road there? So the folks in the audience.
639 Tabor Road, I believe.
It's 639, okay.
Yeah.
What was the age of the building there?
Too old?
Too old, I know what you're saying.
That sounds a little glib. I'm sorry. I know I'm on the side of the dice, but I don't have an exact date. But I think it went back to the 30s, and unfortunately, the prior owner developed and improved the property, I think, in a pretty haphazard way. And that's not a reflection on the town. I mean, when the improvements were done, they probably were going through normal permitting, but some of the improvements there with dual heating systems, no insulation in the walls. I mean, once again, older homes present a certain challenge, and this one certainly did.
Where exactly on Tabor Road? Because I'm just trying to get a visual on Tabor Road.
Almost over to, on Route 53, almost towards Route 10.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, Mayor Collins, I want to thank you personally
Yes.
for the work that you're doing. I, too, had a mentally challenged brother who lived, fortunately, with my husband and I for many, many years. And what you're doing is marvelous. And in any way, I think that this council and this township can help you. I don't believe anyone on this council would say no. I'm hoping they don't anyway. Thank
Well,
you.
pleased to hear that, because, once again, this is more than COA credits. We talk about lives, and 1,200 people is a significant number, and you actually have, by partnering with Community Hope, actually given us the opportunity really to make a difference, and I know that the township commitment is second to none, so I thank you so much for your support.
No, we appreciate you being here, and
Yes, thank you.
it's a great cause, and I don't know what's needed from us, Mayor, to go forward. We need to...
Well, we'll move forward with Ellen. I'll speak with Ellen, I'll speak with her tomorrow, but we'll get her moving forward.
I think we'll probably have to amend, I don't know if this is in your existing spending plan. So you'll have to amend the spending plan. We'll have to get that approved through the court, since Judge Hansberry has jurisdiction over that, although he's cooperated with Parsippany and expedited those in the past. And then once that's done, then the funds would be available.
So hopefully this won't get bogged down. We're willing to support you in and John, you'll get on that?
Yeah, we'll work with you.
Let's start the process.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. We'll commit funds in the interim, but it does take away from other needed cost and support. I thank Mayor Barbaria and the Town Council for entertaining Community Hope tonight, and wish you well. And you set a bad precedence by serving cake at meetings. Don't ever mention that to anybody in Kinnelon. I would appreciate that. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
again.
you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Enjoy your night. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Can we ask you how old you are?
Not as old as that house, I'll say that.
All right.
But, every year I get is another good year.
And many more. Happy birthday. Yes, thank you. All right. Okay, moving forward, anything from any of the council members they need to report?
I have a question. Last week, there was a ribbon cutting at Smithfield.
Okay.
I'll ask Mr. DePiero, how did you find out about that ribbon cutting at Smithfield?
I got a phone call last minute and had to
From
rush
who?
over. From the mayor.
From the mayor, okay, because myself and Councilman Paluso were never notified about that ribbon cutting ceremony over there. I am the liaison to the Recreation Committee. I had no knowledge. I happened to see it on Facebook and another media outlet about this ribbon cutting ceremony, and I had no knowledge of it whatsoever. So, Mayor,
Okay.
can you tell me why I was never notified?
Well, it was an oversight.
Okay.
All right, what will this,
Tell me why I wasn't
What
notified?
we will do is, we will notify you in the future.
Thank you.
Well, I would suggest that you notify the general public as well, because I think it's public funds that we paid for a park, and I believe that they should have been invited to celebrate the contribution we've made to the community.
Although there was 200 kids there, we did it because there was a playground, the kids were there, so we decided to do it at that moment.
Well, I just hope that politics is not playing any part of this.
Oh, you know
that
about
that's
politics,
not an
Rob.
open-
so-
okay, gentlemen,
Anybody knows about politics, Mr. Paluso, it's you.
okay. Just hold on for a
It's an article in the Parsippany Life, which is nothing but false and over-exaggerated lies.
Well, you keep on increasing taxes, 12%, keep
Well,
going.
All right,
keep voting to
gentlemen.
Increase the budget, and then you
Okay.
vote against it.
Well,
All right,
it's
gentlemen.
a shame that we approved a park to be built, and we have presentations here from
And it's a
Jim
shame that
Walsh,
you vote
but
no on the
you
budget to
neglect-
appropriate the monies for that park.
You neglect to have two councilmen
All right,
here,
gentlemen, let's bring it
and
to
use
order here.
pitches for political
We're going to move on to the
I
next
hope the pitches
order of
aren't being
business.
used for your mailers when you run for
All right,
mayor.
we're going to bring it to the next order of business.
Don't
What
worry
we'll
about
do
my
is,
mailers.
gentlemen,
We are, because taxpayers' money. We worry about
all right,
taxpayers' funds.
all right, gentlemen,
Thank you.
please, we'll move forward. What we'll do is if there's an event that comes up in the near future, we'll make sure everybody's notified about that. We don't have the CFO here or the BA. Was there anything to report on any of their behalf since?
No.
Okay. All right, thank you. Our township attorney, anything to report?
Nothing.
Good news.
Nothing for open session.
Okay.
At
so we
least
have-
at this juncture.
So we have some closed session
So I
information?
have 2 items for closed session.
Okay. And our clerk, who's been working diligently for us, getting a lot of stuff done back there, so tell us
Thank
what
you.
you got going on.
Thank you, but no report today.
No reports? Okay, all right. All right. I see we have nothing under that. What we'll do is we're going to talk about bids.
I have a comment on
Yes,
that.
Mayor.
On the improvement to North Beverwick Road, I spoke to Justin Leeser today, the engineer. And what we weren't going to put it on because there's grant money attached to that grant from the state. And remember, the state has said that we will not, they held off on all the grants. But we have the money in the budget,
Okay.
so we feel, it's important to put it on. It's been funded, because if we don't put it on now, this project won't be done till next year.
Okay.
So that's the recommendation that, I'm making from the township engineer.
Okay, and when would that go to vote, Mayor, on that?
Next meeting.
The next meeting?
Yeah, next meeting.
That'll be in September then.
But you see, the thing is, that we got a letter from the state saying that if we do any projects that have state grants to it, we could lose that grant. I just want to make you aware of that as well. The fact of the matter is, a lot of towns are facing what Parsippany is facing, but we, in the budget, according to Justin, it's funded fully without the grant money.
Oh, okay.
So,
All right, and we'll go in more detail about that for the
Yeah.
September meeting. Okay, great. Okay. Well, always something going on with the state here. Okay. All right. Bids to be taken, July 29th, improvement to North Beverwick Road. August 10th, road reconstruction for Fox Hill Road to be taken. definitely need glasses here, I tell you that. August 31st, 11 a.m., elevator subcode official. And September 1st, the 2016 practice facility project. Quotations, proposals, and qualifications, none. I'd like to entertain a motion to open up the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, second by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Floor is open.
Great. If anybody from the public would like to come forward, please sign in, state your name. You have 5 minutes. Thank you. You're definitely on.
It's just too much. I can't stand not picking it
Okay.
up. Hi, I'm Julia Peterson. I live at 25 Old Parsippany Road, and I'm speaking as a private citizen. Okay. When you're on other things, you have to clarify that you're not speaking on behalf of anyone but yourself. Okay. So I'm a volunteer at the Stickley Museum at Craftsman Farms, and I want to commend the council and the administration for consistently supporting the museum. And this is why I want to do that. Since the 1980s, when it was threatened by development and was preserved by the efforts of Muriel Burson, God R.I.P., and Frank Priori, the Stickley Museum has blossomed through the efforts of volunteers, and you gave a lot of us credit, which was very nice. And we have volunteers from all over. Now, as the museum with a professional staff, it continues to grow, and it's working toward national recognition. And I want to give a shout out also to Councilman DePiero, who's a fellow board member, along with Joe Janaron and Jasmine Lim, and some other people. The museum is required to have people from Parsippany on the board. Okay, and as Councilman DePiero said, it is a National Historic Landmark. So I did a little research. In the United States, there are 80,000 buildings and sites that are national registered. But there are only 2,500 that are national landmarks, national historic landmarks. And those are protected areas of historical significance of the highest priority. So the Township of Parsippany is really doing a good thing by supporting this organization. It means that Craftsman Farms is one of, in the 3% of historic properties in the whole United States. So people come from all over the world, arts lovers, furniture makers, collectors, historians, curators, and students. And when you're a volunteer there, you get to meet them. I met some people from Scotland at Christmas time. And it's great because the farm tells the stories of the Stickley family as well as the Farney family, who both were very involved there. Okay, so the museum's important. But to be a living entity, a museum needs programs for kids, for scouts, for senior citizens, for tour groups, for local people. A lot of people in Parsippany don't even know that it's there. So a museum is a tremendous resource to our community, but the programs need space in which to reach out to that community. Museums aren't static. They need to grow. And even with our group of tremendously committed volunteers and donors, unless the museum can grow, it will wither. Luckily, as Rhonda said, there's a building which can give the museum the space it needs. The administration building, luckily, is in great shape. Unusual for a building on a historic site. It's in great shape. And all it needs is some tweaking to become what this program needs right now.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay. For a relatively small investment, it can be transformed into classroom meeting space and event space and staff workspaces and a welcome center and more efficient storage. More space will benefit the museum and it will benefit the town. So, as a citizen of Parsippany, I thank you again for your support of one of Parsippany's, New Jersey's, and the United States' highest priority historic landmarks. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions, concerns from the council here? No? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
name is Pat Farnham, 23 Lakeside Drive. I'm here to tell each one of you people here that I will personally notify each and every one of you if we ever christen Manor Lake and get the dam done and the pond dredged. My real purpose here is to find out if I could get a status update as to what's going on. It's been almost 4 years now that we've been goofing around, and I know we've been bouncing this back and forth. Jim and I were talking earlier with the DEP and the town and the engineers and the DEP, and it's going back and forth. Somebody's got to take this bull by the horns and get something done now. This is getting silly. And as I mentioned to Jamie earlier, this summer is killing this lake. I can walk across it right now. My lakeside property that I'm paying property taxes on, I can walk across. The longer we wait, the more that this lake is going to just die. And if we do something about it, it's going to cost this town, I would guess, 3 to 4 times more to do the dredging and the digging and the moving of the landfill. Which is another idea that maybe the township should look into the bidding process, because some of these contractors are going to have a hell of a job in their hand trying to get this thing dredged. So, is anyone give me an update as to where we're at?
Do you have any other questions to ask? Besides, because you have 5 minutes,
Well,
I'm trying to.
I would just like to know where we're at.
Okay.
And what's the township's plan in the go forward.
Okay. All right. Mayor, council.
Well, I can answer that. I'll find out where we're at, Mr. Farnan. We have had issues with the DEP in the past, and we continue. It's a slow process, a lot, and he's absolutely correct. It's 4 years. So, okay, go ahead, Ann. You want to say something?
I just spoke to Justin today. Mr. Farnan, I'm Andy. I'm the one that emailed you every month.
Okay.
So you have the up-to-date report on what has been going on. We expect to hear something within a week. Things for the project.
I think the DEP has sent everything back already. Steve Gamba had it at Cherry Weber.
They had to tweak something. As far as I understand, within a week, we should have some payroll orders or something.
So you haven't gotten anything from the DEP yet?
They've been going back and forth.
Who's they?
DEP.
Steve has sent supposedly everything back to Hatala at the DEP. Okay. Okay. And
I'll speak with Ann tomorrow, but also speak to the engineer, and we'll somehow reach out to DEP to see if we can get this ball rolling. I know you've been waiting a long time, but
the real concern is the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost the township. I mean, it's crazy.
we have no control over the DEP.
That's the biggest problem. So to say, we have another matter, I don't want to bring the name up, with the DEP, and it's
I know.
frustrating.
I can understand the frustration. But when something, you have professional engineers, they should know their job, and they get constantly bounced back for this is missing, this is missing, this is missing, and it keeps getting resubmitted time and again. There's something wrong.
I grant you that. I just know, like, through anything else, they have, how can I say, the final authority before you move anything, because then if you do without their approval, then they're going to wind up suing the town, and then it's just
I understand.
more of a mess. So
All right.
I'll make
Both-
sure
both
also.
points are made. I'll see you next month.
Yes. I'm
Thank
hoping we
you.
can resolve this for you, sir. And I will follow up with the mayor and the CFO and the BA
Okay.
also.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good, Mr. Guzman.
I'm Carlos Guzman, as most of you already know me. I am the president of the Sedgefield Civic Association. It's the oldest civic association in town. I'm not here with the situation of the association or anything happening that I must present for, because of that. Again, I live at 1 Friar Road and the Sedgefield section, and I'm asking for removal of a tree that I never had before, planted by the town on the land on the town's right of way. This happened after the new curves were completed at the beginning of the summer. Mayor Barberio and I have, of course, we've spoken a couple of times. The head engineer, Mr. George Winter, and the Parks and Forestry Department, Mr. Jim Welch, were also told that we never had a tree on their property before, and were made aware of my disappointment by the second week of June. Now, everyone gave my wife and I the same basic line. Township right-of-way can do whatever it so seems to want to do. I also received another call from Mr. Jim Welch a couple of days ago, telling me that the reason that another neighbor had his particular tree removed was because he had obtained an award years ago. I'm only asking to be given the same consideration that was granted by this assembly when another neighbor, that other neighbor, Mr. Robert Vole, the gentleman with the white hair, the white hat, came to present his case at the regular meeting back on June 21st, 2016, and again on July 19th. When when Mayor Barberio said to the fragile gentleman, I quote, "You asked him, you never had a tree on your property? Am I correct?" He answered, "In the town right away? That is correct. Never had a tree there." Mayor Barberio continues, "Because we do have a town ordinance that states that if they remove a tree, they will replace it with another tree by town ordinance. But since you never had one, I will speak to the Forestry Department, Jimmy Welch, to have it removed, but since you never had one, it becomes a different story." Then on July 19th, 2016, Mr. Vole returns to thank the Assembly on the quick response or removal of the tree. He stated that the tree was removed within 1 week after his request. Mayor Barberio, you said to Mr. Vole, and I quote again, "I had that discussion with Parks and Forestry Department director because when you made me aware that there was never a tree there, our ordinance pretty much says that if we remove a tree that's been already there, then we replace it, but since you never had one, that I understand, we are going to correct it," unquote.
You got 2 minutes.
Final notes. One of the ordinances mentioned about the tree planted, Township Chapter 225-63, tree shade states that no tree shall be planted within 50 feet of an intersection. I believe that this and my neighbor at 2 Robinson Road, right next to me, are only 25 to 30 feet away from the intersection. So that's another situation. I also must mention that, like Mr. Volt's Landstake Award he received many years ago, which has definitely nothing to do with the removal of the tree from his house, my home has won several lawn decoration awards, as already mentioned previously by a couple of the neighbors here. Christmas awards decorations from the township back, and when the township was giving gift certificates for a fountain of rain. My home is located at the top of the T when going to Sherwood Road, where Friar Road and Robin Hood Road meets, making it very visible to those that drive into it. This tree will continue to impair the view of our holiday decorations that our neighbors like to see year after year. I thank you.
Great, thank you. If I may, I spoke to Mr. Guzman. First of all, if we looked into, the town has no such ordinance. There is no such ordinance. If there was a tree there, that it would be replaced. I spoke with Ms. Gini, and I also spoke with Khaled to find that ordinance. There is no such ordinance that exists. I think it's ludicrous that our town is planting trees on people's property that do not want a tree. This gentleman never had a tree, just like Mr. Vole, but our town went and planted one on his yard. He doesn't want it. It should be removed. His neighbor never had a tree on their lawn. They don't want it. It should be removed. I think we all agreed. I don't know, Mr. Guzman stated, Mr. Walsh said that Mr. Voll's tree was removed because he received an award years ago. That is totally false. We all agreed that because Mr. Voll did not have a tree before, he shouldn't have one now if he doesn't want it. So I think that Mr. Guzman's tree and his neighbor's tree, who have both expressed that they don't want a tree there, should be removed.
Mr. Guzman, I just have a question, because this tree issue is new to me altogether here. When that gentleman brought up, because I know the gentleman, that he lives in your development over there?
Yes.
Same, yeah. Be honest with you, when he showed up here that day in question in regards to this tree to be removed, I didn't know in regards to what the ordinance states, or if there was an ordinance in place, and I, based on, Mr. Creefy, knowing him from when, he was much younger, I thought this was an award-winning house with his lawn, the whole 9 yards. I didn't personally go over there, and for some reason, I thought the tree was like planted in the middle of his lawn. That's how I perceived it. The only question I have is maybe towards the township attorney. I know that where I used to live, when we had curbing put in, any type of new work being done, they planted trees in that area where the curbing was just done. If there was work being done in that area, because where they cut into, obviously, I know how Sedgefield is. Did you have curbs put in over there?
Yes.
Yes, because I know, like, when I was on Wingate, they live in the back there, they put, the curb in, then they did other improvements with the trees. So I don't know if that's part of the process. I don't really know how this works out in regards to the ordinance, so maybe we'll get your technical.
We don't have an ordinance.
There's no,
Yeah, it's not really a legal issue, except obviously the township does have the right to plant trees within its right-of-way, but,
But I mean, if we have residents that adamantly don't want one, why are we putting one on there anyway?
What I'm saying is, so we correct this moving forward, is there anything that we could put in place in regards to, it seems like there is a technicality in regard to the 25 feet from the intersection. It seems that obviously could be definitely a hazardous issue. But what do we do moving forward where, if we find out there's 200 people in the town now that want their trees removed, and now they're basically a full-grown tree, what do we do? What's in the best interest of the town here? I mean, if Mr. Guzman's stating that it's, within the intersection, it should be 50 feet or so, and there could be an issue with, obstructing the view, I could see that being legitimate, but what do we do moving forward with?
His tree was recently planted, so.
Yes, I don't know. How old is your tree?
2 months.
It's not been there that long.
2 months.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know
As long
this.
as Mr. Voles.
Okay, so I didn't know that either. Okay.
The same time.
And for some reason, that gentleman, when he showed up, was his tree put almost like in the middle of his property, or
Same-
towards?
the same
Same
area.
thing with him?
The same-
Okay,
same
I
area.
haven't been by your house, so I didn't see
The
the.
tree has to be put in within 10 feet of the curb, in order to be a town tree.
Okay.
So it's not, it'll be that 10 feet at the most from the road. I mean, we can't just put it on the middle, on there.
Well, I'm just
saying, it doesn't become right away any longer.
Okay. Mike, you've been around for a while in the council. Did you ever encounter these issues? Just so we get some feedback
No,
here.
this is rather unique, but in the policy we've had in the past is that if a township tree is diseased, we will take it down.
Okay.
But we have had a policy not to take down a tree unless it's a danger or diseased.
Okay.
Now, in this situation, we're talking about new trees being installed. I'm of the opinion we should change our policy, and if there is no tree there now, then the Parks and Forestry should see if the residents want a tree before we put one there.
Okay.
I mean, that's I don't know how you retroactively go back and correct.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying
the
to see how we can
past,
look at this
but
methodically.
on a going forward basis, I think we should ask if the residents want a tree if one hasn't been there. And if they say they want it, fine. If they don't, we don't put it there. That will resolve it going forward. Retroactively, we have to talk about that.
Well, we've already removed one gentleman's tree, so why is it good for one and not good for the
Yeah,
other?
I didn't know we were gonna
No, I know, but.
stir up a can of worms.
Mr. Guzman, I believe in treating everybody fairly. If we've done it for one resident and we set a precedence, we need to do it for any resident that did not have a tree that needs to be removed. If you do not want a tree, you are a taxpayer, I would suggest that we have the tree removed. Furthermore, the only reason why me personally have relied upon voting the way I did with having that residence tree removed is I relied upon the mayor indicating that we had an ordinance. So obviously we don't have an ordinance, so I believe we should put an ordinance in place that if a resident does not want a tree and never had one before, that they do not get a tree. Furthermore, trees have become problematic for a lot of our residents. Powder Mill, a lot of them have been eating away the pipes too. There's root systems. Those root systems could deteriorate your lawn. They come up out of the ground. People don't want trees, just like people don't want sidewalks sometimes. So why should our township spend money on something that our residents don't want, and why should we aggravate or antagonize the residents and cost you time to come here? As far as I'm concerned, I would like to direct the mayor to remove the tree.
I have a few,
Well, I'd like
let
to
me,
make a
hold, Mayor,
comment.
just let me just say.
Okay, because
Again, I'm sure that we're going to work, obviously, your issue out, and, you know, there is an issue that obviously is concerned for all of us. But like Mr. DePiro had said, now we have to use common sense. These are obviously new trees that were just planted, how long ago?
Less than 2 months ago.
Okay, 2 months ago, all right. So now we have to use common sense to say, okay, Mr. Guzman obviously didn't want this tree planted there. Obviously, there's a technicality issue in regards to where it could obstruct the roadway, which is common sense, okay? But we have to use other common sense here, that if, you know, on the other side of town, 2 years ago, they had these trees planted, now you have a tree that's 2 years old. And I think that would not be a good recommendation to go now remove a 2-year-old tree. You know, the trees are there for the environment, to beautify the area, but at the same time, if we're going to start, obviously, putting new trees in, and we are aware that there are, folks that live in the town here that don't want them, we could then work with them to either not put it there or remove it. But we have to use common sense. We just can't go back and say, we're going to remove X amount of trees, and they could be from 2 to 5 years old. Now we're really opening up, you know, Pandora's box here, like Mr.
understand.
Perrott said. So, I think what you're bringing up is a good point, and I think that if we do move forward to remove it, I think that we should do it systematically in a way where we then, you know, reach out to some of those other neighbors that maybe just had these trees planted and ask them if they, you know, want the tree removed or not, because we don't want to keep going back and forth
No,
where,
I-
2 years go by.
What I could suggest is that we definitely have a deadline. If, for example, if you
Absolutely.
do that, have a deadline, and that way, you know, and so there's a certain period, open period, and that's it. After that, that's it. Close
Yeah.
it down.
Absolutely.
But definitely, I agree. You know, the new trees. Let's do that. And from
There'll really be
then
no
on,
harm
just
to the
go
tree.
forward and,
Yes.
and exchange and definitely redo the ordinance.
And there are people that want trees, so.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
definitely.
We
found an individual that
There,
wanted it
yeah,
last
there were
time we
trees on that on Sherwood Road, right next, right in front of me. There was a neighbor that had 2 trees. Not a single tree was
Yeah.
planted there, and she was complaining. And so, well, you know, I didn't say anything because really I didn't know exactly which way to go. I'd
No,
never
we
seen the
respect
ordinances.
your opinion, and obviously your concern.
Again, I receive a lot of emails, a lot of texts from a lot of the neighbors constantly, and they want to know. They want to know what exactly are the rules and how to go about in resolving the situation. That's why I try to approach each one of you as soon as possible.
Okay, now this is, and hopefully we could, maybe work with this,
Just
Mayor.
real quick. First, I shouldn't use the word ordinance, I should have said policy, when I talked about, because Councilman Creek is correct, there is no ordinance. But I will tell you this, you will open up a can of worms. Worms that, if you take this tree down and the neighbor's tree down, you're gonna be taking a lot more trees down than you think, because people are gonna say, well, 2 years, I don't care if it's 2 years, I don't care if it's a year. You're gonna set a precedence, and maybe we shouldn't have taken that other person's tree down, but in all essence, we all got caught up in the emotions. Yes, he got an award from Frank Peoria, and we were all like, well, that's great, great job. So, in the discussions I did have with Jimmy Walsh, it was one of the reasons why. He's been in town for how many years? So we had someone that would take the tree. The council agreed then, but I will talk with Jimmy more and to see if we can rectify this. But to think that we're not going to open a can of worms, you're going to.
What if we just said within this last calendar year or the last 6 months? Anybody that got a tree?
A horticulturist would answer the question to say, how can you remove a tree with the root system and not kill the tree, because we don't want to kill the trees. So why don't we consult with
Maybe
the
Mr.
Parks and
Walsh would
Forestry.
know that.
He is a horticulturist. He can answer the question, how much time you have to remove a root system. Let's craft an ordinance that we put in place for the future that prevents something like this, and anybody that was within the horticultural specs that says you can remove it and transplant it effectively without killing the tree, we'll remove them.
That's why,
Well,
yes,
if
that's
I
why you
can,
can't
let
jump
me
the
ask
gun.
you
We
that,
have
though,
to,
if I can.
yeah.
A street in Lake Hiawatha, nobody wanted trees on the street. Okay? We had to put them in. It's beautification. It's part of the process. It's part of being Tree City USA. you know, you're gonna get every resident that's gonna say, I don't want a tree. So what
But
do
a
you
lot
do?
of those trees, would they not meet this criteria that he's talking about, where if we pull
Well, they
them
would
out
have met
now?
it, they would have met it then.
No, but now. Now, if we pull them out,
It's
it would
only a
probably
year
kill
old. The
them.
tree's only a year old.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe if we said the last 6 months.
And this is a civic association as well.
That's correct.
So, you know, you're.
Now,
Well, the Civic
the other
Association
suggestion
admits-
I would make is also is that if an admit have the forestry department, the engineering department admit to their mistake, that they removed trees, they never really marked them down on a plan exactly where those trees were removed. They just, go out here and guess, we'll do this house, that house, that house, skip this one. You know, that's exactly what it looks like. If you actually drive around Sedgefield, you'll see that it's not consistent. These trees are not at a particular row order. They're homes that have been skipped. So where is the beautification situation if you're really not doing it consistently? Okay.
I mean, I don't think an ordinance is the type of ordinance that was talked about up here. I don't think is appropriate. It's not appropriate to have residents decide town policy on town property. That doesn't work. I think what you need to do at this point is to confer with the Division of Parks and Forestry, so that the governing body gains a better understanding of what they do and why they do it. And then with that information, try to come up with a policy that makes sense going forward.
Okay.
It just sounds to me as though it's difficult for you to really react. I mean, you want to be helpful to a resident who's come with a problem, but without understanding why Parks and Forestry does what it does, you're sort of grasping to make policy in the dark. So it would seem to me you'd want to hear from that and then engage with them and come up with a policy that better, that better suits the township.
In the meantime, let's remove the tree.
I'm not removing no tree until I speak to Jimmy Walsh, number one.
Well, you can't. You remove
Yeah,
it
hold
for
on,
one
just,
person.
you
You
got,
can't
just, he has the floor right now.
Here's copies of the shade tree ordinance, chapter 225, land use and subdivision. So I'm gonna pass this out to the council. I just made copies before in my office, so. Mr. Guzman, did you have a copy?
Yes, sir.
My thing is one, we've already done it for one person in the neighborhood. Mr. Guzman just stated, there's other people in the neighborhood that actually had trees that were taken down, and then a tree was planted, for instance, on his lawn. He never had one, but those people that actually had one, now they don't have one.
I think the mayor spoke to that as an exception, as one exception. But again, I think it's difficult to kind of create policy sort of on the fly like this. It sounds to me like there needs to be some conferring with your Division of Parks
Right,
and
that's
Forestry
Mr. Guzman? Right.
before you can really go forward with this.
Mayor, if I.
Here's what I
Oh,
can
okay.
say, Council President. If, I can meet with Jimmy Walsh if you'd like to meet with us.
Okay.
And we can discuss today, and how can we move forward with regards to taking, first of all, we're not taking the tree down immediately, Mr. Guzman. I'll be frank and honest with you.
I can understand that.
You know,
Yeah.
and I told you that, and it's just, because before we do that, we have to have something in place. We just can't take it down without having something in place to protect the town. Because I can tell you this, we take your tree down, and now, like you said, you heard it, you saw it through a council meeting, well, other people are gonna see it through a council meeting. And before you know, we're gonna be taking so many trees down, that we're not, even gonna have the manpower to do it. But I will speak with Jimmy, and I'll speak with
Yeah,
Council
just-
President, and John, we'll see if we can draft something up.
Yeah.
If there's something we can do.
And Mr. Guzman, just, straight from the heart here, I never encountered an issue with the gentleman with the tree on his property. So I can say to you honestly, procedurally, I didn't know exactly how that worked out. I thought we were really trying to help him out and satisfy the needs of what he wanted at the time. The
understand.
only concern I am is that we'll definitely get with Parks and Forestry and just find out, we'll come up with an intelligent plan where we could obviously move forward and there'll be some exceptions of maybe possibly removing them if it's not going to be an issue. We don't want to damage the tree. We don't want to, upset other neighbors because they might want trees in the neighborhood. So we all have to look at this as adults, and we'll move forward, and we'll all work together, and we'll be transparent, and we'll be in touch with each other. Hopefully by the September meeting, we'll have an answer, and then we'll move forward with that.
Okay.
Is September timeline
Well,
okay? It's like 2 more weeks of this tree.
That'll be fine, as
Okay.
long as I'm not speaking to the forestry department, the engineering department. I would like to hear it from
Absolutely.
from the,
And I
from
do
the
too.
mayor
Absolutely.
and the council. One thing, just before I go, just read on line C out of that shade trees at 225-63. That's where it says where areas where none of the above varieties of trees exist. That particular paragraph there actually outlines even a lot more, gives you a lot more details of what's happening here. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guzman. Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry about the inconvenience. Maybe Craftsman's Farms will like some trees. Retransplant them.
Nicholas Homiak, Lake Hiawatha. Several things. This ordinance 354-34 concerning the private use of the municipal containers for businesses and homes that are dumping their garbage in Lake Hiawatha, and I'm sure other places. It happens all over, but we made an ordinance. I like to think I had something to do with helping to pass it with Mr. Schneider and Ellen, of course. But it's not being enforced. We have one sanitation officer, one. In the town the size of Parsippany, there should be more than that. And recycling has been around for a long time, and you'd be surprised at people who just don't do it. But today, there was several municipal cans full of household garbage, and as far as I know, all they're doing is being emptied. So the cumulative effect of all that mixed trash at the tipping station and all, and it's a private use of a municipal, of a common that belongs to all of us. So that has to change. I would recommend that you consider, at least when necessary, to hire another sanitation officer and enforce the ordinances. Like I said, if you want to keep on disobeying the law, you should suffer the consequences. As of late, I've been involved with the environmental committee. I'd like to tell you that Parsippany has a lot of highly qualified individuals, and I would recommend that this town not have a committee, but a commission that actually sits on the planning board, because we don't have any environmental protections in this state. We have the DEP, that's where you go to get your permit to pollute. The only thing that we have is our master plan, and our master plan turns into silly putty a lot. So we should have people like environmental commission that actually is part of our planning board, so they can really give strict scrutiny to some of these developers' plans. Just a headline here: no life, liberty, or happiness without a healthy environment. And like I said, all we really have is our master plan. Right now, only 2 states, Pennsylvania and Montana, have strong constitutional provisions protecting environmental rights. 15 states, including New Jersey and Delaware, have no protections whatsoever. Protections in New York and 32 other states are even weaker. So
You have 2 minutes.
I would like to recommend again a great opportunity for the conformance to the regional master plan. Because we're in the planning zone anyway, we have nothing to fear except higher standards that would benefit our town and make developers more responsible, because we're going to lose our aesthetic beauty, our sense of home, and we are injuring our water supplies and our recharge areas, and it's all going to catch up with us. So I would ask you all to open your mind again to the regional conformance plans. And you also open up yourself for more grant money for things like craft farms and everything, because they do have a historic elements that are available to conforming communities. And that'll be it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else from the audience like to come forward?
Mr. Homiak, legally, you may want to petition the state for your idea, just, for the record, that's not something that you can consider. Appointing a commission to the planning board is not legally permitted.
Municipal.
Yeah, it's not legally permitted.
Oh, I believe there is a commission already.
No, under the statute, under the law, the mayor appoints individual members to the planning board. You can't appoint a commission to the planning board or.
I know that there are municipalities in New Jersey who have that type of a setup.
No, they don't. You can talk to me offline.
Research again and get back to you.
I'm sure you're going to do the research on that, so.
I will.
All right. That's what keeps you so young. Thank you.
Just don't confuse us with Montana.
Jerry Manning, Rainbow Lakes. I just want to add a little something to the Blue Lives Matter movement. A couple of weeks ago, excuse me, I got an email from a national law enforcement organization recommending in the Blue Lives Matter movement that replace any bulbs that you have outside your house, on your doorway, on your garage, on your driveway, on an outbuilding, put up blue light bulbs. So I immediately, the next day, I went up to Home Depot. They're very inexpensive, and I've had blue lights 24 hours a day. Just a little suggestion to keep this alive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Plus, we don't need a regional planning board. We are big enough to have our own.
Thank you. Anybody else from the audience like to come forward? Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Do
Make a motion.
we have a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, second by Mrs. Grignani. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Got a motion.
Mr. Paluso?
Ordinance number 2016:20, an ordinance of the Township of Parsippany, Troy Hills, in the County of Morris, New Jersey, appropriating $130,000 from the Open Space Trust Fund, Recreation of the Township for the acquisition and installation of playground equipment at Lake Parsippany Park within the township. The notice of the ordinance was published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper in the Township of Parsippany, Troy Hills, on July 25, 2016. This ordinance was introduced on July 19, 2016 at our regular meeting. Motion to accept ordinance 2016:20 to be heard in its second and final reading by title only.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, second by, no, motion made by Mr. Paluso, second by Mr. Karifi. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Public hearing 2016:20. Motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 2016:20.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Paluso, second by Mr. Karifi. Roll call.
Mr. Karifi?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes. Anybody from the public like to come forward? You're never lost for words, so I figure you're coming up here.
Me again.
Just state your name again. for record.
Nicholas Homiak, Lake Hiawatha. I would have to give a no on this because the primary purpose for open space funding is for land and environmentally sensitive lands that provide eco services, not for a particular playground for a particular neighborhood. There are grants available for both. There's an organization that sponsors playground grants, and there's also parks and recreational grants that are available. And I would think we've already squandered a lot of our municipal open space money. I would think on the water view which primarily benefits the developer much more than it would that neighborhood, because that, to me, that should have never happened. I believe we're spending money already on the curves that, I hate to say, in my opinion, really don't seem to warrant all of that spending or trouble. And we had the turf grab from the Board of Education that got, over $2 million that came out of nowhere, an artificial turf. So this, like, our money's, it's just not an appropriate expenditure for open space money. Like I said, it should be primarily kept in reserve for environmentally sensitive lands. And once again, Parsippany is losing its aquifer recharge areas to impervious surface, and the cumulative effect of that and the susceptibility to the contamination is going to catch up with our water supply for future generations. So I would have to say that no to the open space monies for the playground. You can seek money by parks and recreational grants.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public like to come forward? Okay, I see none.
Make a motion to close it.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Griffey, second by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and a hearing held thereon, now therefore be it resolved that said ordinance be passed on final reading and that a notice of final passage of said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Paluso, second by Mr. Griffey. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Ordinance
Griffey?
number 2016:21, an ordinance of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, County of Morris, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter A445, Fees Compilation, Section A445-37, Knoll Country Club Utility of the Code of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills in the County of Morris, New Jersey. The notice for this ordinance above was published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, on July 25th, 2016. This ordinance was introduced at the July 19th, 2016 regular meeting. Motion to accept that ordinance 2016:17 to be heard in its second and final reading by
Second
title
reading.
only.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Mr. Griffey, second by Mrs. Grignani. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Entertain a motion to open up the public hearing on this ordinance and this ordinance only.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Mr. Griffey, second by Mrs. Grignani. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes. Anybody from the audience, you have 3 minutes to, you'd like to come forward? Nick?
I'm just curious as to what exactly A445 is.
You're going to have to come up to the mic. We know you're a regular here, but you still have to, sign in.
It's just up on you, updating the fees.
Nicholas Holmiak, Lake Hiawatha. I didn't look it up, but I think the public is entitled to know what exactly Section A445-37 actually entails and what this ordinance will, how the ordinance will affect it.
It's just updating fees.
Yeah, it's a fees. It's just an update of the fees for the utility.
Should be in your packet there. Okay. Let's see, we answered that.
Okay, make a motion to entertain, make a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance.
Motion made by Mr. Creepy, second by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on second reading and a hearing held thereon, now therefore be it resolved that the said ordinance be passed on final reading, and then a notice of final passage of said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law. Motion to approve the resolution made by myself.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Mr. Creepy, second by Mrs. Grignani. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Loretta?
Ordinance number 2016:22, an ordinance establishing white-collar salary ranges. The notice for the ordinance above was published in the Daily Record, the official newspaper of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills, on July 25th, 2016. This ordinance was introduced at the July 19th, 2016 regular meeting. Motion to accept ordinance 2016:22.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Grignani, second by Mr. Karifi. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Motion to open the public hearing for ordinance 2016:22.
Motion made by Mrs. Grignani, second by Mr. Karifi. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes. Anybody from the public like to come forward? If you do, you have 3 minutes. I see no one wants to come forward.
Motion to close the public hearing for ordinance.
Motion made by Mrs. Grignani, second by Mr. Paluso. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Whereas the above ordinance was read in title on the second reading and a hearing held thereof, now therefore be it resolved, said that said ordinance be passed on final reading, and that a notice of final passage of said ordinance be published in the newspaper according to law. Motion to approve ordinance.
Second.
Motion made by Mrs. Grignani, second by Mr. Karifi. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the non-consent agenda. Mr. Paluso?
Resolution 2016-150, resolution of the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills approving a new limousine license for Parsippany Express LLC. Motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Paluso, second by Mr. Karifi. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Consent agenda. Mr. DePiero?
Be it resolved that all items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the Township Council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Mr. DePiero, second by Mrs. Grignani. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Applications, none. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
No, we need to go into.
Oh, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun here.
Resolution.
Don't know.
Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas the Township Council is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the Township Council wishes to discuss Mountain Way Development, LLC versus Township of Parsippany, and whereas minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be it resolved by the Township Council of the Township of Parsippany Troy Hills that the public be excluded from this meeting.
This is the Mossberg litigations, which
Yes.
includes 700 Mountain Way, and also the Fair Share Housing litigation.
Okay, thank you. Make a motion.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
Second, Grignani.
Motion made by Mr. Karifi, second by Mrs. Grignani. Roll call.
Mr. Carriffy?
Yes.
Mr. DePiero?
Yes.
Ms. Grignani?
Yes.
Mr. Paluso?
Yes.
Mr. Valori?
Yes.
Okay, we're now going to public session. And into closed
Thank you,
session, sorry.
everyone. We'll be a while, so if you still want to stay here, have some cake, but we'll be back. Thanks. It really was a Freudian slip. I'm just trying to get this done and over with, so.
You were trying.
Thank you.
Nice to see you again. Take care.
And hopefully we can help you out with everything. Thank you. We got a quorum.
Yeah.
Go?
Oh, you did? Perfect, thank you. Yeah, we have a quorum, you can go.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
I'll make the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Griffey, second by Mr. DePiero. Roll call.